It is working. I'm Carl Orgrim. I'm co-chair with Mary Pomber, presenting together the first recycling program since the pandemic. Oak Knoll recycling history is here completely tonight. Nancy Thayer was married to the founder of Oak Knoll Recycling. Witherell Winder is here. She followed. I came next, and then Mary came. So the whole bunch is here. We will take questions throughout, but attempt to move along since Oak Knoll 1-hour meetings are encouraged to move along. So we'll probably have room at the end for plenty of questions. But if really something needs to be asked right now, go ahead and ask it. I'm starting with basic recycling, defined as the single-streamed materials which starts with you, the center of this process. You place your stuff in tubs or bins, which are then tipped into vendor one's truck once a week. That was this morning. And driven to the Quad Cities and processed by vendor two. Giving you some background so you know this isn't some magical thing that happens outside of reality. This happens in reality. Let's start by dividing acceptable materials. There are unacceptable materials. They're called trash, and they don't come into the recycling room. They shouldn't leave your apartment when you are headed to the recycling room. They should be dropped off at the trash when you get there. We'll go into that a little bit more later. So the two things are mixed paper and everything else. Everything else is capitalized because everything else doesn't mean trash or other things that aren't recyclable. So mixed paper and everything else. I start with mixed paper because as you leave your apartment, you have an opportunity to drop mixed paper off on your way somewhere else, not the recycling room. In spring, you're doing that in your trash rooms. There's a green tub, little green tub, where you put your mixed paper, and it magically gets dumped into the bins downstairs. On the other side, and that is officially called the other side since we don't know any other word to use for it other than Old Knoll, which isn't acceptable. On the other side, mixed paper gets complex, as most things are complex. Mixed paper can be dropped by George residents in the mailroom closest to the oak dining room. That's where your mixed paper can go. All of us can, yeah.
You want to define mixed paper?
That will happen. That will happen. Pretty soon. Then the rest of George Street then is dumped. The mixed paper is dumped in the mailroom closest to the oak room. Then for the rest of the other side, Court, Benton, and Central, there are trash rooms, like there are in spring, and so they have not chutes, but they have big garbage cans. But they also have the green tubs like you have in spring, and that's where they can drop theirs. And each floor on the other side has those trash rooms, so they're pretty conveniently located to a place to put their mixed paper. And mixed paper tends to be the most common thing that you have. So what does mixed paper include? I probably won't get it all, and that includes things like office paper, letters, anything that you don't want anybody to read. I mean, if you do, cross it out or black it out or shred it. But shreds, by the way, are mixed paper, and they can go in the mixed paper downstairs. They don't go in, do they go in the green tubs? I don't think so. They can?
They just can't be in plastic bags.
Right,
Shreds,
right.
yeah.
Mixed paper goes directly into anything that accepts recycling. Used to have to be in, it switched from having to be in plastic to not able to be in plastic. So that's a question that's often asked. Softbound books, magazines, telephone books, catalogs, paper promotional material, anything you can think of, not greeting cards. Almost no recycling venture accepts greeting cards because a lot of them have glitz and so forth on them that cannot be accepted. What is everything else? That's another question that I'll ask you to wait until a little bit later to ask. Where this all starts, it starts with you, and it starts with clean and dry. And I'll be a little more specific about that, about how and why it has to be clean and dry. Everything else, it includes things like glass, beverage, and food containers, plastic bottles, and containers, other plastic containers, usually with a triangle, steel and aluminum, foil, and cans. Needs to be clean and dry, and that's kind of hard with some pans that foil pans that you've cooked stuff in, but they need to be clean and dry. Otherwise, they go into trash. Might as well say right now, you don't have to use recycling. It is not a requirement. We certainly think it's optimal, and we sure hope you do it. But the option is to put it in trash. The option is not to put trash in recycling. And if you don't understand that difference, we get extra work. And the people that take our stuff, vendor two, it's in the Quad Cities, would have to deal with and maybe lose some of the stuff that's been sent to them by us because it's been affected. This material is not left in the recycling containers that are for mixed paper on the floors or in the mailroom downstairs. Mixed paper goes in those things. All of the other, everything else, as I call it, needs to be taken to your recycling room or the other recycling room. You can cross the line just as you can for this program. You can go to the other recycling room. In case you don't know where they're at, one's in level 1 here in your elevator L. It is L, isn't it, back there? Yeah. And on our side, it's near elevator F on the first floor too. Surprise, surprise, not in Central. Everybody, most of the staff thinks it's in Central. It is not. It's right next to Central in Oakcrest, just before you get to the studio. So in case you don't know what's over there, that's where it is. Okay. Any moisture will compromise the value of the paper materials. Paper really needs to be clean. If it's been stained by grease, bacon grease, just about anything, put it in trash. Don't put the paper in with mixed paper and recycling. Put it in trash. And the interesting thing is that affects your treatment of everything else, because everything else has to be clean too. And what do you clean it with? You clean it with water. And what happens when you put water on something? It doesn't dry right away. And if you rush downstairs with it, put it in the bins, you have made water wet and probably not going to be usable. And it may even cause problems at the other end. So the better you can do by way of keeping things dry and just letting them dry. Don't go out immediately with your wet stuff. Turn it upside down and let it dry. cardboard is an important issue. It's always been an important issue, and it will be an important issue, and some things have changed in the last few years which make it even more interesting. For a long time, it went into trash, and the landfills were filled up with trash because a lot of it was cardboard. So most political entities and most recycling operations went from accepting soil and other cardboard to not accepting clean cardboard at all. You can't take it to a landfill. Our trash operation is taking stuff to the landfill, so they have cardboard dumpsters where you put it. What do we do in recycling regarding cardboard? My advice to you is that the best thing you can do with cardboard boxes is break them down if you can, put them outside your door, and call maintenance. Will maintenance get to you right away? No. But they will get to you, and that's the thing to do with them. Why? Because, especially on the old side of Knoll, we don't have any cardboard dumpsters. We have recycling bins. So every night, Barb and I go down, and other people help too, occasionally, have to take the boxes apart and cut them up into pieces small enough to fit into a recycling bin. Some of these boxes are very heavy and very difficult to use with a box knife. I don't have my box knife with me, but I could show you. It's not a big operation. It's a hard operation. So cut your recycling staff a little slack and leave it outside. I will leave it to Mary when she talks to tell you how she deals with cardboard on this side. Fortunately, the staff has a cardboard dumpster on this side, and it's just beside the recycling room, so it's a little easier to handle.
Carl, you're talking about corrugated cardboard, right? Not cereal box corrugated cardboard.
Right. The regular old single-ply cardboard is fine if it's clean, not with donut stuff on it, and don't get us started on pizza boxes unless you got them at the factory before they went to the pizza parlor. You have to trash it. So the thing is that we're the victim of I would say topography and structure in the sense of cardboard, and that is because when the original campus here was built, an outdoor corral was established for recycling and cardboard, and so there are 2 cardboard dumpsters on the other side, and so it's very hard for us to get to those cardboard dumpsters. We have to walk a long ways to get to them. We put some in the bins in the recycling room, but we do have to cut them up. My advice is, if you have a small amount of corrugated cardboard, bring it in, we'll deal with it. Just don't, if you're ordering stuff online all the time and getting big boxes, and most of the people are doing the right thing and breaking them down, but they're still very large, and they won't fit efficiently in our bins. I don't know if you realize or not, but combined with Mary's stuff, when I took over from, I don't know what it was back in Thayer's days.
Carl, excuse me, you need to put the microphone up.
Okay. When I took over from Wetherill, we had, was it 5 or 8 bins? 8 bins. There are now 26 bins. So it's grown a whole lot. There's a whole lot of business. Okay. I would like to emphasize that Oak Knoll residents have a remarkably high level of compliance with the rules. There are problems, but compared to most places like this, most anybody that's doing recycling on any large scale has less compliance than we do. We're really blessed to have that. The thing that I encourage you to remember, even though you're good recyclers, when you talk with other people and encourage them to do so, I find that there's some notion out there that these are our rules. Mary and I set these rules. That's not the case. These are rules of our vendors. That's why I emphasized that our stuff goes to vendors. Vendors set the rules. Mary and I are in charge of trying to get the rules followed, at least, and doing what we can to address it when they're not. So remember that they're not our rules. They're set by vendors and applicable into the landfills, and the city itself does a lot of recycling, and so we also have to follow the city's rules. Interestingly, our vendor number 2 in the Quad Cities, where our stuff goes, the city uses the same vendor, a different transporter, but the same vendor. And as an aside, the east side of Knoll uses a different transporting vendor than we do, but they use the same Quad Cities vendor for the processing. And the reason that the rules are rather Byzantine or complex is that in a free economy, a large effort is made to make economic value out of our cast-offs from the discarded materials. Dirty stuff doesn't sell. Remember, we're trying to get economic value out of this stuff, and it can't be processed into something that can be sold. So it's got to have economic value. That's why there is some, although not a great deal, difference among communities across the country on what they will take and what they won't take. We've experienced in the time I've been married, just a year less, that the rules haven't changed very much. The one big change is the shreds that have to go in as is. We were very worried earlier about them flying all over when they get emptied and so forth. The vendor says, nope, we want them, don't want plastic. It's more trouble for us to pull out the plastic after we dump them on the table and it flies all over the processing plant than it is to spend a little extra time at your place sweeping up what fell because the wind was blowing the day that we tipped your can, your bins. Before I turn this over to Mary for some fun stuff, I wanted to ask, are there any questions? Are there materials that you're wondering about?
Yeah, I have a question. You said, I don't want to talk about pizza boxes. Well, I sort of do. Because
Go right ahead.
We have one in our apartment right now that came with pizza in it tonight from 3rd on 3rd. Absolutely clean. There was not a spot on it. And
Put it in. We'd accept that.
you would accept, okay, I just wanted to be sure that there wasn't just something about the pizza box itself.
And also, I'm glad you asked that question because we do accept half pizza boxes, and usually the top half is just fine. Cut it off and throw it in. Others?
When you were talking about the cardboard being put outside our door, do you mean everybody should do that?
Yep. I mean, some people don't order that much that comes in boxes, and so I walk not every yard, but every corridor in this place every day. Not in the licensed areas, but in independent living. So I don't know all your names, you know where all you live, but I see where boxes are, and there are some, but there's not a tremendous number. And a lot of you are bringing them down to the spring recycling room, and Mary will tell you what happens there. At the present time, that is a behavior change that I guess I'm asking, that on our side, on the older side, the more you can leave out, the less has to be either, we have to go from, you know where the studio is, where the recycling room is on that side. We have to take the elevator, go up to 3, go down to the far end of George, almost the far end of George, down the elevator, B, to the second floor, out the back door, and into the corral, and put them in there. So that's time.
Do you want to just, when we get boxes, do you want us to dismantle them or just set them outside?
If you can dismantle them, great. They'll take them if they're not dismantled. And some boxes, Barb takes a fair number of boxes over without dismantling them to their area, because they're made out of lead cardboard. I mean, it's really, really tough to break them down. So I guess it's some of the fruit boxes and some of the other produce boxes where the vendor in some far off state which wants the stuff to arrive at your place in good shape.
And then what about the cardboard around coffee cups?
That's fine. The sleeves are fine. Coffee cups, unless they didn't get used, can't go in, and that is because coffee stains, and they don't want it. They don't want it.
So if we rinse them out and let them dry, that
Nope.
we can't,
Nope. Right?
we can't throw it in?
Am I being too stiff there?
I didn't know that one, Carl.
Okay.
Where
So,
do we take them? Where do we take the
Your
empty
50-50 chance. You choose.
Business envelopes often contain plastic.
Yeah.
It varies from a window through which you can see the address to packages which have bubble wrap as an integral part of the
Right.
paper. Where do we draw the line?
Bubble wrap incorporated is a no-no. I suppose if you could actually rip it off and just have paper, you could put the paper in, but you're going to have to throw the other out anyway. So any plastic envelope in a letter is acceptable. They can deal with that. There's a lot they can do. I mean, I don't know about Mary, but I think so. Have tried to get into the guts of these plants and watch what they do, and I have to take it by they have actually presented to us, so we know what they say they do, and I think they do it. But I would like to give you the assurance that they actually do what I say they're doing. But I can't do that because OSHA requirements in their rather messy, loud, slicing and dicing plants doesn't make for visiting people, so I can't see them.
Lately, I've noticed that some of the bottles, plastic bottles, say put the cap back on and recycle it. Is that, I've been putting it back on.
You know, I wondered about that, and I think that whoever's saying that, that's their method of trying to keep water out. Keep the water in the bottle, not in the, but I would say no.
Well, it's been on television.
Yeah,
about,
yeah.
they
Yeah, I watched
they
that.
wanna Recycle the
Jen,
whole.
just last week I saw Jen's program repeated, and she advised that. I haven't checked with her thinking on that. That's something you might ask her, Mary, when you see her. That surprised me. Jen is the woman who was for years head of recycling at Iowa City, and Sarah is the person who replaced her when Jen took over. What
No,
is
Jane Welch is now the recycling coordinator, and Jen Jordan is over everything, recycling, the landfill.
I wondered about that because who is Sarah? Or is this old enough that it's before Jane?
Oh, maybe that's it.
We're talking
Yeah, never
people
mind.
you don't know here, so excuse us.
You said something about clamshells about a week or so ago.
Do you know anything about clamshells?
They're looking at me.
For one thing, I will tell you that all of the clamshells, you can exclude from recycling two kinds of clamshells. Paper clamshells,
The hard
And-
paper?
if they're paper, they're probably stained from the food that was in them. And the other kind is styrofoam clamshells. Those should be tossed out as well. There are some plastic clamshells that I have been putting in because they have the proper, 1 through 5 triangle. And our vendor, I ask vendors questions when they come and pick the stuff up. Now, they aren't the ones who work in the processing plant. That's not vendor number 2. I'm talking to vendor number 1. But I check things out with them and they say, no, those can go in. Those can go in. And the pressed paper things that make the correct space for an object to be placed, like a piece of electronics. Are you familiar? They're dimpled, kind of thick, but they exactly fit what's being shipped in them. Those can now be accepted. Those, you can break the box down, recycle it, and you can recycle the pressed paper separators.
Is anything with a hinged lid a clamshell?
That's my thought. I don't, so many of these things, we don't have a Robert's Rules of Order for this stuff. But we try. Did you have another question, John? No? Any other? Well, you're going to enjoy this. Mary, here you go.
Yikes.
I know, I've heard.
Talk about pressure.
I didn't turn it off.
Figure that one out. Before I start on the rest of what I'm going to say, I want to talk about cardboard since I'll forget. As far as cardboard and spring, just bring it, if you can, bring it down to the recycling room, and if you want to just leave it under a table or something, if it's too much for you to handle, that's fine. I'll get it I take it to the dumpster, which is out in what we call the monster room, but we really don't want residents going out there. So just leave it in the spring recycling room, and I will take it to its final resting place out there in the dumpster. And
is it permissible to bring in our little closets where we put the garbage in those recycling boxes in there? How do you feel about that? That's just extra work for you.
well, that is, it's extra work we have volunteers that bring the paper from the trash rooms, that's in the recycling bins and the trash rooms, down to the recycling room. There's a different group of volunteers 3 times a week. And we prefer that they not have to deal with that cardboard.
Okay.
But you can always contact me. I can take your cardboard down there. So if that's easiest, that's good. So our first, I'm particularly talking about reusing, which ideally is the step before recycling. I mean, if we can get some use out of something before it goes into recycling, that's even better. So one of the things we do, as you know, is collect pull tabs from pop and soup cans, and Linda Mustin has breaking news on the pull tab front. So she's going to tell us about that.
I feel like I'm the halftime entertainment between these stages of recycling. Okay, thank you all who contribute your pop tabs, your pull tabs, whatever you want to call them, from pop, from water, from soup. last week we delivered 6 pounds. Now 6 pounds of pop tabs fill quite a big shopping bag.
So where you delivered them to?
Pardon?
Where are you delivered?
To the Ronald McDonald House. So a brief, I'd like to prime the pump a little and encourage those of you who are not now pulling the pop tabs and you feel agile enough to do it. We are going to have a new receptacle down on the table that will help identify where they're going and where they benefit. I have an information sheet over here that tells you more detail about specifically what to do. I even have, if you're serious about it, this is not a decoration for your apartment, and it's not to go in the recycling bin, but I do have some little houses that you can put on your counter as a reminder to collect them. And when they collect, then bring them down, put them in this jar. There's one over on the old side too. And when you're removing them, a tip. It's hard to do with the mic. Turn the tab around. It's very much more likely to not injure you or to get in your way. So just twist it around, bring it, contribute it. It all goes to the Ronald McDonald House Charities, which, as we know, not only helps the kids, but it also is a good representative of our community. They appreciate Oak Knoll, and we want to keep it up. So that's
Thank you.
I have a question. What do they do with them?
They sell that's what my information sheet, I'll be over there if you know.
Okay.
They take them directly to an ironworks in Marion, and they get the money, and the money goes to help the families. So the information sheet will fill that out, but.
Yeah, I looked that up. It takes about 235 pounds of pop tabs to cover the cost of caring for a family for one night at Ronald McDonald House. Yeah.
So a lot of it's awareness raising of a resource in our community, and I hope you'll all.
But people collect a lot of tabs, so and also, I thought this was a fun fact. 10,433 empty aluminum beverage cans weigh as much as a baby elephant.
We also know, you might also have the number of cans that we're taking to recycling. We know there are a lot more tabs out there.
Right, yes, we're taking lots and lots of cans to recycling, as Karen knows. So we know that you're touching pop tabs. So if you could rip them off and put them in your little house, that would be super, and bring them down to the recycling room. What I mainly, as I say, want to talk about is reusing, because I do a lot of that, and I know a lot of you do too, and I'm highlighting some of the things that you all do in addition to the things that I'm involved with. Cardboard tubes is one of them, those collections of toilet paper tubes and paper towel tubes. And they go we kind of had a slow period like with everything else during COVID. I usually took them to the Children's Museum, but for a while they weren't open, and a lot of places didn't want to be getting things that other people had touched. We understand that. But several years ago when I was volunteering a lot at Hoover Elementary School, I took a lot over there, and they made this giant squid. You'll want to come and take a look at this, maybe. There was a giant squid made out of Oak Knoll toilet paper tubes. You just never know how far the reach of Oak Knoll is going to be, do you? So anyway, you might want to take a look, because it's a giant squid that hung over the top of the library, all out of your toilet paper tubes. When you look at your toilet paper tubes, you want to think about some of these more exciting things that might happen.
Clean and dry.
Yeah, clean and dry. Egg cartons. A lot of you put your egg cartons in your recycling room. And I collect egg cartons here. I collect them from the free lunch pantry. I collect them from friends across town. And for the most part, they're picked up by 6 Acre Farm, which is a small family operation out near Parnell. And about every 3 weeks, I put 80 to 100 egg cartons out in the entryway here for them to pick up. And they have I've asked Nicole there to let me know what that means for them, and she wrote me, it saves us 26 to 30 cents per carton. There is also a carton shortage, so we are also having challenges in finding a good source of cartons. With so many shortages in the supply chain, it not only saves money, but also a lot of time finding them. There just aren't a lot of resources for the small farmer like us. So we're all helping them by passing along our egg cartons to them. I also have a friend who's a chicken farmer down near Kelowna, and she'll text me when she's short of cartons, and I put some out for her, and she drives up to get them. So they go mainly to 6 Acre Farm, but also to other people. Redeeming of redeemable cans and plastic bottles. That's quite a big operation. I don't know. We have a lot of drinks being consumed here.
You're not talking about the orange juice bottles I'm saving.
Pardon?
You're not talking about those orange juice bottles I'm saving.
No.
I don't think so. No. So we have volunteers. We have the, as you may know, on the south side of the spring recycling room, we have those 2 big boxes, one for plastic bottles, one for metal cans. And then we have volunteers, Fred and Bill Albrecht, Margaret Nelson, who bring them over from, I'm sorry, I'm the one who uses Old Knoll, but from the other side over to this recycling room. Each person does that once a week, so all those are brought over here, and then Barb Orgren does an amazing job doing all the sorting of all those into some big sorting boxes that we have out in what we call the monster room. And then she gets those all packaged up into big bags, and then Karen Franklin picks up those bags and takes them and adds them to the collection that the Rotary has of redeemables. So our cans go into the Rotary collection, and then they're redeemed for money that then goes to funds that the Rotary distributes to local nonprofits. So that's where your redeemables sort of end up, benefiting local nonprofits. Empty plastic water bottles with lids, let me emphasize, with lids, go to the Crisis Center, and they use them to repackage detergent. A lot of time, I do a lot of table-to-table, as you know, and a lot of times we pick up big, huge containers of laundry detergent. And so the Crisis Center can use those little bottles that we give them to repackage the detergent to give to families. Plastic grocery bags. Boy, we get a lot of those. It would be so great if people would have their own cloth bags. But anyway, all the plastic bags that you put in the, that bin down there in the spring recycling room. Gretchen Fuller is the absolute star of plastic bags. She goes, once a week, she goes through all those plastic bags to make sure there are no torn ones and none that have any dirt on them. And she sets those aside. She puts those in the trash, the bad ones, and packages up the good ones. And then Karen Franklin takes those either to Open Heartland or to Community, so the clients can use those when they come to the pantry to get their food. So, that plastic bag has another life and another use.
Is it all right for us to use those plastic bags for our garbage cans? That's what I've been doing, and I'm just wondering if it's okay. If I can take some of the plastic bags that are...
Oh, if you want to take some and use them for, oh yeah.
To reuse them.
Oh sure, yeah. Take the dirty ones. Take whatever ones you want.
Are they supposed to be folded or?
No, it's ideal, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because it's ideal if they're all individually put into that bin. Don't put them in a big bag all scrunched together. Just put them individually into that bin. That's ideal. Isn't it, Gretchen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. I want to make sure I got it right. Corks, you see a container for corks down there. We have a resident who uses them for drainage in the bottom of her flower pots. And so those get used, you know, it's a lighter option than putting stones in the bottom of her flower pots. The vases that you sometimes see in the recycling rooms, those all go to Josiah. When he gets a collection of them, he contacts Every Bloomin' Thing, and they come and pick them up and reuse them. So those vases that we all get with the roses in.
So that we can put others than the rosebud ones.
Yeah,
And
the rosebud, any of them, yeah, any vase, yep. Well, you know about books. That's currently going to Shelter House book sale, but when the sale isn't operating, then they go to little free libraries, ours or other free libraries. Hangers. Now, some of these things are things that I deal with, I guess, separately because I do other jobs around here, I guess. But hangers, the plastic ones, we give to Josiah. They need them for laundry that they do for assisted living and the health center. If I end up getting hangers that are metal with plastic, you know, with cardboard at the bottoms and all of that, I take all that off and take the metal to Peterson Metal Recycling out in Coralville. All sorts of packaging, bubbles, pouches, all of that I take to, and if I find it, sometimes some of you put it down in the recycling rooms, and I just keep it and then take it to mailboxes and they reuse it. So that all that packaging can get reused. Pull tabs, you've heard about those. Styrofoam now is being collected by Carol Woodworth, as you know from the note in the memo, and she takes it to a company in Washington, Iowa, where they use it for, I think, building materials, part of their building materials.
Mary? But not on our side.
But not on the other side.
We don't have the room for stuff.
Right. No, I understand. You know, a lot of we have that big recycling room downstairs here in the Spring building, so we can do a lot of these things that really aren't possible there, and we understand. Recently, I have a new reusing that I'm happy about. Some of you met my friend David. I met him in probably 2000 when he was homeless, and he since has moved into a trailer up in the trailer park in back of Shelter House. And recently he got a job as a custodian at Cross Park Place, you know, which is the Housing First project of Shelter House. And he contacted me the other day. He said, "Do you have access to newspapers?" I said, let me think. But anyway, I took him some newspapers, and he's now using them to clean the windows over at Cross Park Place. So our newspapers are getting used over there. I get text messages from Juan and Bruce sometimes, and when they have food left over, you know, that's been prepared but not served, they let me know, and I pick it up and I take it to free lunch usually, but sometimes to Shelter House, depending on what it is. We are using the batch of used Oak Knoll food service aprons as our aprons for our Oak Knoll free lunch team. So we're reusing those too. Partly used cleaning supplies. I take those to Haycap Southgate. They manage a lot of apartments, and they need to clean those apartments, and so, you know, they're fine with partly used cleaning supplies. If they don't need them, I take them to hazardous materials out at the landfill, which is also where nail polish goes. Somebody asked me about that today, and I wanted to make sure I got it. So if you have little bottles of nail polish you're not using, I make trips out to hazardous materials often. So if you ever have anything like that, I can certainly take it along. Old t-shirts, things like that, I take to Habitat. They use them on the work sites when they build houses. So if you have old things like that, old towels, old t-shirts, just let me know and I can take those and get them used out there. That I work quite often with houses into homes, and they are amazing at reusing things. I brought some photos to show you. Sometimes they get a desk, for instance, that they can't, they don't have a home for. You can look at these after. They have some volunteers out there, some handyman, I guess you call them, and they divide those up and make them into bedside tables. So they start with a desk and make it into 2 bedside tables. It's just so clever. And this was a little table that had a glass top that broke, and they took some flooring and made a top for this table. And then we have a local star reuser in our audience. That would be Kay Full. And she, well, a lot of you know that she has made hundreds of bookmarks. Yeah, bookmarks over the last year. And I have some of them here. She puts them down at the market, I think, so anybody can pick them up.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and these are some of her paintings that she's done in the past that she, wants to still use for something, even though she's not keen on them anymore for being paintings. So she cuts them up. Sometimes she adds little hearts or something on them and makes bookmarks out of them. And she told me she was thrilled because she learned from Linda Muston that Linda's granddaughter in Ireland, I think it is enjoying some of those bookmarks. So the bookmarks are going all over. And she also takes some of the paintings and adds other things to them to give them certain themes, a musical theme here, a family fun theme. And this one, I think, is so interesting. It's sort of a COVID-themed piece of art. It was an original painting of hers in the background, and then she added little headlines from newspapers, to this painting and made it a COVID theme. You'll want to look at this. It's going to end up in a historical museum somewhere. So she's a master reuser. Just doesn't want anything to go to waste, even things she's not using anymore. And then a lot of times she makes these cards. Well, I can't get it open with one hand, but anyway, takes pieces of construction paper and just uses the front of a card as the front, and then the inside, of course, now is blank, so it can be used as a card again. So you're welcome to, of course, come and look at any of those things. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
I've only been here 2 years, so I'm kind of new. And I started listening to you, and you were saying you take something to Marion, Iowa.
Oh. No, the Ronald McDonald home, we don't take any pull tabs, and that refers to the pull tabs.
Somebody collects it and it goes to Marion.
Right, there's an ironworks there in Marion, and that's where
that was where I was from.
Oh, and that's where the pull tabs go.
I'm very far from those places like that, and I'm going, I can't believe.
It's a small
you're
world.
taking my garbage back to where I was living.
No, not garbage. No, don't say the word garbage. As you can see, I go to great lengths to keep things out of the landfill. Lucy?
What's the status of composting for Oak Knoll, not individuals?
The status of composting for Oak Knoll. I talked with Bruce about that several times before COVID. And then COVID hit, and I thought, and Bruce was very interested in doing it as an Oak Knoll-wide thing, certainly for food service and for residents. But during COVID, with what food service has been dealing with, I have not wanted to follow up. I think once we get settled back a little bit, that's going to happen, but it won't right now. But I certainly am going to follow up as soon as I can. Sure. Oh, one more?
You don't
Jeanette?
seem to have a lot of people who compost and take it over on Sundays.
That's That's right, because I think I probably told you that needs to be, well, I'll talk to you about that later. Well, that is a small composting group, and that's because they're just those two, a small group of residences that Oak Knoll owns that use city services. And so they use the city services. And I talked with Jen Jordan some years ago, and I said, can just a few of us use those? And she said, yes, as long as it's a very few, because obviously the city doesn't want to be doing composting for all of Oak Knoll when Oak Knoll doesn't pay the city to do that. So, anything else? Oh, Joan.
I think we should all give them a hand.
Oh, yeah.
Also, we have to,
No.
oh, never mind.
As long as we're on hands, I would like to
Use
acknowledge.
the microphone.
I would like to acknowledge the committee members. Bill Albrecht, Fran Albrecht, Ed Fisher, Karen Franklin. Why don't the people who are here stand so they can see who you are? These people work hard. Gretchen Fuller, Jim Fuller, Carol Howard, Ken Hubble, John Menager, Linda Muston, Margaret Nelson, Joan Noblings in Arizona. I'll tell you no. My wife is at home, Barbara Organ, and Carol Woodworth. Thank all of you for that.
I just want to say to one last little thing. I think we in particular, as maybe some of you know, Carl is retiring from his co-chairmanship of the recycling committee at the end of March. Yikes. And I think we ought to give him a standing ovation. Just a second. He has more to say.
I spent my career in libraries, which is kind of fighting uphill. So then I came to do recycling. Same sort of deal.